It is late, and you are here because money is on your mind. Maybe you are lying down in bed, hoping to fall asleep, but your thoughts keep circling around bills, savings, or the fear of never having enough. You came here looking for peace, but you also want answers. That is what this story will give you. This is not a quick tip video or a crash course. This is a calm, long journey that will help you understand why money feels so heavy, why freedom sometimes feels out of reach, and how you can begin to feel lighter even before the numbers change. You will hear about the lies we are told about money, the traps people fall into, and the small steps that bring real calm. From the first chapter to the last, you will hear about illusions of wealth, the fear of not enough, the weight of debt, and the hope that comes when you define what enough means for you. These lessons are not only about numbers, they are about the feelings behind the numbers. They are about what happens in your heart when you look at a bank balance or when you make a payment. If you stay until the end, you will see how financial freedom is not just a number you chase. You will learn that freedom is also an inner state, a way of feeling safe and calm even when the world is uncertain. This video is built to help you fall asleep while slowly reshaping how you see money. By tomorrow, you may wake up with more clarity and a softer way of thinking about your own financial path. The reason you should listen all the way through is simple. Each chapter is designed to uncover a different piece of the puzzle. At the start, you may still feel the fog of confusion, but by the middle, you will begin to see patterns in your own story, and by the end, you will understand how to create peace in both your mind and your money. The whole journey works together, so every part matters. In the first act of the story, we will explore what I call the financial fog. These are the early wounds, the family lessons, and the childhood moments that shape how we think about money. Many of us grew up with unspoken rules about spending, saving, or surviving. Some of these rules still live in us, even if we no longer notice them. By listening, you will see how much of your current stress may come from old stories you never chose. In the second act, we will move into the wake-up stage. This is the moment in life when you start to earn, spend, and borrow on your own. It is when you face the first big shocks: debt, comparison, financial embarrassment. It is also when you begin to see that money is not only about math, it is about who you believe you are. Here, you will hear how others faced these moments and what turned their fear into awareness. In the final act, we will explore the redesign. This is where the story shifts from fear to healing. You will learn about money rituals that create calm, ways of defining enough that remove pressure, and small practices that build safety. You will hear how to connect your money to your values so that spending and saving feel aligned with who you are. And you will leave with the quiet but powerful truth that financial freedom is a feeling before it is ever a number. Listening all the way through matters because each chapter builds gently on the last. You will notice how the language, the examples, and the metaphors return to you like waves repeating on the shore. By the end, those waves will carry you to a place where money no longer feels like a constant enemy, but like a tool you can guide with calm hands. That is the gift of staying until the last word. This story is not about perfection. It is not about hitting a certain milestone by a certain age. It is not about comparing yourself to anyone else. It is about seeing money with honesty, learning to sit with your feelings, and choosing small actions that bring relief instead of more stress. That is why this is a bedtime story. It is meant to heal as much as it teaches. You might wonder why a story about money is being told in such a gentle, sleep-friendly way. The reason is simple. Financial stress often shows up at night. It creeps in when everything else is quiet. By telling this story in soft, slow words, you are given space to learn without panic. You are given room to reflect without judgment. And you are reminded that you are not broken just because you struggle with money. There will be moments in this journey that feel like looking in a mirror. You may hear about the fear of debt and remember your own. You may hear about the illusion of more and think of the times you thought a bigger paycheck would fix everything. You may hear about contentment and realize you have glimpses of it already. Each of these reflections is a step toward healing. You may also find comfort in knowing you are not alone. Millions of people live with money stress. Research shows that nearly half of Americans feel anxious about money on a regular basis. Many of them earn good incomes, but still feel trapped. That is because financial freedom is not only about how much you earn, it is about how safe you feel with what you have. This story will keep coming back to that truth. By the end of the story, you will see that financial freedom is not a finish line. It is not one single number in your bank account. It is a balance between numbers and feelings. The numbers give you direction, but the feelings give you peace. You need both. And once you see that, you can begin to live differently even before your bank balance changes. So why should you stay for all 15 chapters? Because each one is a piece of a larger whole. If you leave too early, you might hear the fear, but miss the hope. You might hear the struggle, but miss the healing. You might hear the debt, but miss the dream. Only by listening to the full journey can you receive the full peace this story is meant to offer. Imagine waking up tomorrow and remembering not just a few tips, but a new way of thinking about money. Imagine carrying less shame, less fear, and more calm. Imagine being able to see your numbers without panic and to feel your feelings without judgment. That is the promise of this story, if you let yourself move gently from start to finish. So tonight, as you rest, let this be your safe space. Let this be your chance to see money not as a monster in the dark, but as something you can understand and guide. Let this be your chance to learn without pressure and to grow without shame. And let this be your chance to finally rest, knowing that freedom is closer than you thought. Stay until the end, because the last chapters will reveal the heart of it all. They will show you where freedom truly lives, and that answer may be different from what you expect. And just when you think you know what freedom feels like, the next chapter will open a softer, stranger truth. What if chasing more has been the very thing keeping you from feeling free? It often begins with a sigh, a late-night glance at the glowing numbers on a phone screen. A wish so simple it feels universal. If only I had a little more money, then I'd finally be free. Free from worry, free from late-night math, free from the constant loop of wanting and waiting. That dream feels so close, but like heat rising from asphalt on a summer road, it flickers and fades the closer you run toward it. Many of us have lived with that thought. We tell ourselves that just one promotion, just one bigger paycheck, or just one lucky break will take the pressure away. And yet, time and time again, people reach the number they once longed for, only to discover that their stress still lingers. The bills may change, the toys may get bigger, but the weight inside the chest remains. This is the mirage of more. The truth is that even high earners can feel trapped. Studies in the US have shown that nearly half of Americans earning six figures still live paycheck to paycheck. They bring in more, but spend more too. Bigger homes, shinier cars, endless subscriptions. The numbers climb, but so do the obligations. Instead of freedom, they find themselves running on the same wheel, only faster. The mirage shimmers ahead, never arriving. This is where the first lesson of freedom begins. It is not about how much money flows in. It is about how you feel when it flows through you. If the faucet is wide open but the bucket beneath is full of holes, nothing stays. No matter how powerful the stream, the bottom stays dry. More income without awareness leads to the same worry, only with fancier receipts. Imagine walking in a desert with a bottle of water in your hand. The sun is hot, the ground endless, and far away you see a shimmer that looks like a lake. Your heart leaps. Relief is near. You hurry forward only to find dry sand again. That is what chasing more can feel like. Each raise, each new purchase, each milestone promises an oasis. But when you arrive, the thirst returns. It was never the lake. It was always a mirage. But here is where the story softens. Once you see the mirage for what it is, you stop sprinting after it. You look instead at the bottle already in your hand. You notice there is water there, enough to take a sip, enough to keep you steady for the next step. Freedom is not the endless lake that keeps running away. Freedom is learning how to sip, how to carry, and how to rest under the shade of what you already have. This chapter is not meant to shame you for wanting more. Wanting more is human. It is part of how we grow, how we improve, how we build. The danger is not in wanting. The danger is in believing that more is the only way to feel safe. That belief creates an endless race, and in that race, you never feel the ground beneath your feet. Think back to your own life. Was there a time you told yourself, if I just earn this much, I'll finally relax? Maybe it was $40,000 a year, then $60,000, then $100,000. Did the calm arrive the way you expected? Or did new worries appear, dressed in different clothes? This is how the mirage works. It moves with you. The finish line keeps shifting. There is an irony here. More money can absolutely help with real needs. Being able to pay for rent, food, medical bills, those things matter deeply. But once the basics are met, once survival is no longer at risk, the chase for more becomes less about security and more about comparison. You see what others have, and the mirage shifts again. What was once enough now feels small, even if it brings comfort. Financial therapists often describe this cycle as lifestyle creep. It is soft, sneaky, and quiet. A raise comes in, and instead of using it to build safety, you upgrade your life. A nicer car, a better apartment, more dinners out. Soon, the raise disappears, and you are back at the same stress level, only with higher stakes. The mirage has pulled you further out, and you are left thirsty again. The freedom you long for is not in the mirage. It is in learning to pause. It is in noticing when the chase is pulling you forward and asking gently, what am I really hoping to feel? Often, it is not the car or the house itself. It is the feeling those things promise. Safety, respect, belonging. When you name the feeling, you can begin to seek it in ways money alone cannot give. Imagine your financial freedom not as a finish line, but as a quilt. Some quilts are heavy and thick, others are light and simple. The right quilt is the one that keeps you warm enough to sleep peacefully. It does not matter if your neighbor's quilt is larger or if someone else's quilt is sewn with gold thread. What matters is whether yours keeps you comfortable through the night. That comfort is the true definition of freedom. The first step in escaping the mirage is awareness. Tonight, as you listen, let yourself reflect gently. Where in your life have you been chasing more without noticing? Where has the finish line moved on you, making you feel like freedom is always out of reach? Naming those moments is not about guilt, it is about clarity. And clarity is the light that breaks the illusion. You may still feel the pull of wanting more. That is okay. Desire is part of being human. But as you walk through this story, you will learn how to balance desire with presence. You will learn how to enjoy the sip of water in your hand instead of running endlessly toward the shimmer in the distance. And in that balance, you will begin to feel a freedom that numbers alone cannot measure. And just as you settle into this idea, another truth begins to rise, soft as the moon. If chasing more is a mirage, then what about the other side of the coin? The fear of not enough. That shadow that sits at the edge of your bed at night, whispering questions about rent, bills, and survival. That shadow is waiting for us in the next chapter. The room is quiet, but your thoughts are not. You turn off the lamp, pull the blanket close, and still the whispers return. Will I have enough for the rent? What if the car breaks down? What if something goes wrong? These questions move across the walls of your mind like shifting shadows at night. They look larger in the dark. They feel heavier when you are tired. This fear of not enough is one of the deepest money wounds people carry. It is not always about the exact numbers in a bank account. It is about the feeling of scarcity, the constant sense that what you have could slip away at any moment. Even when the numbers are okay, the fear can still live in your body. It can keep you awake even when the rest of the world has gone to sleep. You are not alone in this. Surveys show that about half of Americans report feeling stressed about money on a regular basis. Half of an entire nation carrying that same knot in the stomach, that same breath held tight, that same question. Will I be okay? When you feel that worry, you are sharing a very human burden with millions of others. That truth itself can be a comfort. It is not just your shadow, it is ours. The shadow of not enough often starts in childhood. Perhaps you saw your parents whispering in the kitchen about overdue bills. Perhaps you noticed how tense the house felt on payday, or how quickly the mood changed when money ran out before the month ended. These early experiences planted seeds of fear. As you grew older, the fear grew with you, shaping how you see money now. Even people who never struggled as children can feel this shadow. High costs of living, rising rent, medical bills, unstable jobs, all of these feed the fear. For younger generations, especially Gen Z and millennials, the shadow is even bigger. They face high student loans, housing prices that feel out of reach, and jobs that do not always offer stability. It is no wonder that many nights are restless. Fear has a way of multiplying in the dark. What begins as one small worry, a bill due next week, a payment waiting on the card, quickly expands. In the quiet of night, one worry grows into 10. Suddenly, the whole future feels shaky. Your mind starts writing stories of disaster. What if I lose my job? What if I can never retire? What if I am always behind? Each thought makes the shadow grow taller on the wall. But shadows, no matter how frightening, are still only shapes cast by light. When you turn on a lamp, the shadow shrinks. When you look directly at it, you see that it is only an outline of something real, but smaller than it seemed. The same is true of money fear. When you face it directly, with honesty and curiosity, it often turns out to be less than what your mind imagined. The first way to face the shadow is to name it. Instead of saying, "I am terrible with money," you can say, "I am afraid I will not have enough for my rent." Notice how the second sentence is gentler, clearer, and more specific. Naming your fear gives it form. Once it has form, you can begin to respond to it. Without a name, the fear stays vague, filling every corner. With a name, the fear becomes something you can hold. This naming is powerful because money fear often carries shame. You may feel like you are the only one who cannot get it together. But the truth is, even people with high incomes feel not enough. They might earn well, but spend just as much, leaving little cushion. They too feel the shadows pressing at night. By naming your fear, you join a much wider circle of humans who are also learning to soften their shadows. Another way to soften the shadow is to remind yourself that fear grows at night. It does not always look as big in the morning. This is not about dismissing your feelings. It is about remembering that nighttime thoughts are often painted in darker colors. When you wake, when the sun rises, the worries may still be there, but they are smaller, easier to touch. Knowing this can help you rest. You can tell yourself, "This shadow looks big now, but it will shrink with the morning light." The shadow of not enough is not only emotional, it shows up in behavior too. Sometimes people avoid opening bills or logging into their bank accounts. They think if they do not look, the shadow will disappear. But avoidance makes the shadow larger. It keeps growing, unchallenged, until it feels overwhelming. Facing your numbers, even if they are not what you want, is like switching on the bedside lamp. It might sting at first, but soon you see clearly, and the shadow loses its size. At other times, the shadow pushes people into panic spending. When you feel like you will never have enough, you may say, "Why bother saving? I will never catch up." So you spend for comfort, for escape, for the small joy of right now. This too feeds the shadow, because after the purchase, the worry returns stronger, whispering, "See, now you have even less." The cycle deepens. What begins to heal the shadow is not perfection, but compassion. Telling yourself, "I should know better," only strengthens the fear. Whispering instead, "I am learning. I am allowed to feel scared. I am still safe in this moment," brings gentleness. When you meet fear with gentleness, the shadow does not vanish, but it no longer controls you. You can breathe inside it. You can see past it. One image that helps is to picture your financial fear as a small child tugging on your sleeve. They are worried, they are scared, and they want reassurance. You would not yell at that child. You would not tell them to shut up. You would kneel down, listen, and offer comfort. What if you treated your own money fears the same way? Not as proof of failure, but as a younger part of you asking for care. As you drift in this chapter, notice how your own shadows move. Perhaps they show up as numbers, perhaps they show up as feelings. Either way, remember this: a shadow cannot exist without light. The very fact that you can see your fear means there is light in you already. By turning toward it, you are already changing how the shadow falls. And as you rest with this thought, another question begins to emerge. If shadows can trick us into believing we will never have enough, what about the opposite? What about the nights when you count not just your fears, but your dollars, measuring them like sheep as you try to sleep? That counting is waiting for us in the next part of the journey. The clock ticks softly. The room is dark. Your eyes are closed, but your mind is not. Instead of counting sheep to fall asleep, you are counting dollars. How much do I have left in checking? When is that bill due? If I make it to next Friday, will there still be enough for groceries? The numbers march across your mind, one after another, like restless sheep that never leap the fence. It is a familiar scene for many. Instead of drifting toward rest, we drift toward arithmetic. We measure and calculate, replaying transactions like ghosts. Numbers that should bring clarity instead bring tension. And yet, we still return to them night after night, hoping that if we add them up enough times, they will finally whisper safety. But financial freedom is not just about numbers. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in the US defines true financial well-being as more than a balance sheet. It means having control over daily finances, being prepared for unexpected expenses, and feeling free to make choices that let you enjoy life. That definition reminds us that freedom is both a number and a feeling. Without the feeling, the numbers are cold. Without the numbers, the feeling is ungrounded. Think of it this way. Two people can look at the same bank balance and feel very different things. One person sees enough and feels calm. Another sees the same digits and still feels anxious. The difference is not in the number. The difference is in the sense of safety, the history, and the inner story that person carries. Money is both external and internal, both math and meaning. So why do we count dollars like sheep? Because deep down, we are searching for certainty. We believe that if we can line up the numbers neatly, we will feel secure. But numbers shift, bills arrive, life interrupts. Certainty through numbers alone is fragile. When the digits change, so does your peace. This is why financial freedom has to be more than arithmetic. It has to be about how you relate to the numbers, not just what they are. Imagine wrapping yourself in a quilt. Some quilts are thick, some are light. The right one is the one that keeps you warm enough to sleep soundly. It does not matter if your neighbor has a bigger quilt or if someone else's quilt is woven with silk. If yours keeps you safe through the night, then it is enough. Money works the same way. It is not about how large the quilt is, but whether it covers you with comfort. Counting dollars is not wrong. Tracking what you have and what you owe is important. But the key is to move from counting in fear to counting with clarity. Fear makes you add the same numbers again and again, as if they might change under your gaze. Clarity allows you to see them once, understand them, and make choices without panic. The difference is emotional, not mathematical. Think of a time when you finally looked at your bank account after weeks of avoiding it. Maybe the number was smaller than you hoped, but once you faced it, the fear shrank. What felt like a monster in the closet turned out to be a messy drawer, still challenging but manageable. That is the shift from fear to clarity. The numbers did not change, you did. Many people believe there is a magic number that will make them free. If I could just save $10,000, if I could just earn 6 figures, if I could just pay off the car. But ask those who reached those numbers, and many will tell you the same thing. The worry did not disappear. The mirage of more moved the finish line. Freedom stayed out of reach because it was tied only to a number. So what does it look like to count differently? It looks like remembering that numbers are tools, not verdicts. A hammer can build a home or sit quietly in a drawer. The hammer does not judge you. Your bank balance does not judge you either. It is information. It is a mirror showing where you stand today, not a prophecy of where you will end. At night, when the urge to count comes again, you can practice shifting from arithmetic to reassurance. Instead of asking, "Do I have enough?" you can whisper, "I am safe in this moment. I have what I need tonight. Tomorrow, I can plan again." This small reframe begins to soothe the nervous system. The numbers may stay the same, but the story you tell yourself changes. This shift is not instant. It takes practice. Just as people practice meditation or breathing to calm the body, you can practice gentle ways of seeing money to calm the mind. When you notice the urge to count, pause and breathe. Name the fear behind the counting. Is it fear of the future? Fear of losing control? Once you name it, you can speak to it kindly, like you would to a younger version of yourself. In truth, money and sleep are deeply connected. Lack of money can disturb rest, and lack of rest can cloud money decisions. This cycle spins until both feel fragile. But by learning to rest, even when the numbers are not perfect, you begin to break the loop. You give your mind the gift of renewal, which helps you meet the numbers with steadier hands tomorrow. Consider a gentle metaphor. Counting dollars at night is like checking the weather forecast every 5 minutes. The storm will still pass when it passes. Watching it over and over does not change its path. But stepping back, preparing calmly, and finding a safe place to wait gives you peace. Money is weather too. It shifts, it changes, but you can create a shelter in how you respond. By the end of this story, you will learn that financial freedom is not one single digit. It is the feeling of being able to breathe. It is the calm of knowing that even if storms come, you have a roof and a plan. That is why staying through every chapter matters. Each one peels back another layer of fear, another shadow of scarcity, another illusion of more, and each one replaces them with something gentler: clarity, acceptance, and hope. So as you rest tonight, notice the numbers in your mind. See them walking past like sheep. But this time, do not chase them. Let them pass. You do not need to catch every one. You can rest knowing they are there, and you can tend to them tomorrow with calm eyes. Tonight, your job is only to breathe, to listen, and to let the story soften their edges. And just as you begin to let go of the counting, another question arises, quiet but insistent. If freedom is not only about dollars, then what does it mean to be rich? Not in the eyes of the world, but in the quiet of your own heart. That question is waiting for us in the next chapter. The word rich has a glow to it. When you hear it, you might picture shining cars, wide houses, or people who never worry about price tags. As a child, you may have thought being rich meant having everything you wanted. As an adult, the picture may have grown more complicated. You may still long for that glow, but deep down, you might wonder if rich really means what you once believed. Tonight, under the soft light of the moon, we can take another look at this word. Rich does not only mean stacks of cash or gold hidden in a vault. It does not only mean yachts, jewelry, or designer clothes. Rich, when you peel away the shiny surface, often means something quieter: safety, comfort, and peace of mind. For many people, it simply means not lying awake with worry. Research in the United States shows that only a small percentage of people define financial freedom as being wealthy in the traditional sense. In one study, just over 12% said that being truly rich was their picture of freedom. Far more people said their version of freedom was being debt-free or simply living comfortably without money stress. This tells us something important. Most people are not craving endless luxury. They are craving relief. Think about it. What would feel better? Owning a mansion you struggle to pay for, or having a modest home that is fully yours with no fear of foreclosure? What feels lighter? Driving a luxury car with an enormous loan attached, or driving a simple car you can maintain without stress? The first may look rich on the outside. The second may feel rich on the inside. And when it comes to sleeping peacefully at night, the feeling matters more than the show. Imagine a softly lit room. The floor is swept, the bed is warm, the bills are paid, and the fridge has food. No gold, no diamonds, no spotlights. Just a space that feels safe. That room, in its simplicity, is a kind of richness that many people quietly long for. When the basics are cared for, the heart rests easier. That is a wealth you can feel with your whole body. Being rich in the moonlight is not about how others see you. It is about how you feel when you are alone, when the day is done, when no one is watching. If you can breathe without fear, if you can pay your bills without panic, if you can enjoy small pleasures without guilt, then you are already living with a kind of richness. It may not look like luxury, but it feels like freedom. This does not mean that wanting more is wrong. Ambition can be healthy. Goals can bring direction. But when you chase more only to impress others, or when you measure yourself against their lives, you risk losing sight of what matters most to you. Being rich is not about racing against your neighbors. It is about designing a life that feels full to you. Think of it this way: being rich is not a single number. It is a spectrum. For some, it means having millions invested. For others, it means being free of debt. For many, it is simply having enough to meet needs, care for loved ones, and save for small dreams. The important part is not where you land on the spectrum. It is whether you feel steady when you stand there. The moonlight helps us see differently. In daylight, society shines bright spotlights on wealth, advertisements, social media posts, flashy success stories. At night, the lights fade, and you can ask yourself in private, what does rich mean to me? You may find that your answer is softer than you expected. You may realize that being rich, for you, means waking up without dread. And here is something tender. You may already have parts of this richness, even if you do not feel rich. Maybe you have friends who support you. Maybe you have skills that keep you employed. Maybe you have moments of laughter that no paycheck could buy. These two are forms of wealth. They are not measured in dollars, but they build the foundation of a life that feels abundant. Of course, money does matter. Bills need to be paid. Emergencies arise. Dreams cost something. But the point is this: do not let the world trick you into believing that being rich is only about endless accumulation. You do not need to aim for billionaire status to feel free. You need enough to feel safe, plus the ability to define enough in your own words. Pause for a moment and imagine your own version of rich. Picture your life 1 year from now, not dripping in luxury, but steady and calm. What would that look like? Maybe it is being debt-free. Maybe it is having 3 months of savings tucked away. Maybe it is simply paying rent without stress each month. Hold that picture gently. That picture is your richness in the moonlight. What makes this vision powerful is that it is achievable. Most people will never have yachts or mansions, but most can build a life that feels comfortable, safe, and rich in its own way. It takes honesty, small steps, and the willingness to measure success not by someone else's standards, but by your own peace of mind. So tonight, let go of the shiny image of rich you were taught as a child. Replace it with something more tender, something more true. Rich is not about how much you can show. Rich is about how deeply you can rest. And yet, even as we redefine what it means to be rich, another question begins to stir. If real freedom is not found in luxury, then where is it found? Perhaps the answer lies not in having more, but in knowing what is enough. That thought will guide us to the next chapter. Take a slow breath. Imagine for a moment that you stopped chasing. Imagine that instead of running after more, you paused and whispered, "What if I already have enough? Or what if I am closer to enough than I think?" That thought alone can feel radical. In a world that pushes us to keep earning, keep buying, keep climbing, the idea of enough is almost rebellious. Yet it is also deeply peaceful. Enough does not mean giving up. It does not mean settling for less than you deserve. Enough means knowing the point where your needs are cared for, your heart feels safe, and your body can finally rest. It is not about reaching perfection. It is about reaching balance. And balance, unlike perfection, is something you can feel in your bones. Many people struggle with this idea because the goalpost of enough keeps moving. You may have told yourself years ago, "If I make this much, I'll be fine." Then you reached that number, and suddenly, it no longer felt like enough. Maybe new expenses appeared. Maybe comparison crept in. Maybe you simply got used to having more, and it stopped feeling special. This is the treadmill of endless want. It spins and spins, making you run harder, but never arrive. Studies in the US suggest that Americans, on average, believe they need about $94,000 a year to feel financially independent. But that number is only an average. For some, much less can feel abundant. For others, even more still feels scarce. That is because enough is not universal. It is personal. It is not just a figure in a survey. It is a feeling in your heart when you exhale and realize you are safe. Think of your life as a teacup. When the cup is comfortably full, it warms your hands and your spirit. You can drink slowly, savoring what is inside. But if you keep pouring past the brim, the tea spills over, making a mess instead of bringing comfort. More tea does not equal more peace. Enough tea equals peace. The same is true of money. The right amount is the amount that lets you breathe. Defining your own enough is one of the most powerful steps toward freedom. Maybe enough for you is paying all your bills with some left over for fun. Maybe enough is building a small emergency fund so surprises do not throw you into panic. Maybe enough is a little cushion to take a trip each year or to buy gifts without guilt. Enough is not about luxury. Enough is about security plus a little joy. The beauty of enough is that it breaks the chain of comparison. When you know what fills your own cup, you stop looking at someone else's. Their cup may be bigger or smaller, full of coffee or tea, but it no longer controls how you feel about your own. Defining enough is like setting down a heavy backpack you have carried too long. Suddenly, you can walk lighter. Of course, there will always be voices telling you that enough is not enough. Advertisements whisper that you need more clothes, more gadgets, more experiences to be happy. Social media flashes curated lifestyles that make your own seem small. Even family and friends may suggest that your dreams should be bigger. But when you are clear about your own version of enough, those voices lose power. You can smile and say, "That may be their enough, but I already have mine." One way to practice finding enough is to reflect on moments of gratitude. Think about a time you sat down to a warm meal and felt content. Think about a night when your bills were paid and you could rest without dread. Think about laughter shared with a friend, even when money was tight. These are glimpses of enough. They remind you that freedom is not always in the future. It can be found in the present too. Another way is to write down your non-negotiables. What do you truly need to feel safe? Food, shelter, healthcare, a bit of savings. Once those are clear, you can add the things that bring joy. like hobbies, time with loved ones, or small adventures. When you see it on paper, you may realize that your enough is closer than you thought. Sometimes the shadow of not enough is bigger in your mind than it is in reality. The peace of enough is not static. It shifts as your life shifts. What felt like enough at 20 may not feel the same at 40. Needs change. Families grow. Health requires attention. But even as circumstances evolve, the practice of naming and honoring your enough remains steady. Imagine how different life would feel if you could stop at enough. You would not feel the constant pull to prove yourself with possessions. You would not drain yourself chasing status you do not truly want. You would not confuse abundance with clutter. Instead, you would sip your tea slowly, feeling full and calm. Enough gives you permission to live, not just chase. This is not easy work. In a culture built on growth and speed, slowing down to claim enough feels strange. But that strangeness is also the doorway to peace. It is the quiet voice that says, you do not need to keep running. You can rest here. You are safe enough. And when you practice listening to that voice, you begin to heal the wound of scarcity that keeps so many awake at night. So tonight, ask yourself gently, what would enough look like for me? Is it a number? Is it a feeling? The power is in asking, in listening, and in choosing to honor your own truth rather than the world's. As you rest with this thought, you may begin to notice a weight lifting. The chase for more loosens its grip. The fear of not enough softens its edges, and in that space, a new kind of freedom begins to bloom. It is not loud, it is not flashy, heavy, constant, and carried by millions. If enough is about fullness, debt is about the opposite. The drain that keeps pulling from your cup. Picture yourself walking through a wide open field. The air is fresh, the sky is clear, and yet your shoulders ache. On your back sits a heavy pack, filled not with food or supplies, but with stones. Each stone has a name, credit card, student loan, medical bill, car payment. The load presses down with every step. That is what debt feels like for many, a burden that turns even ordinary days into uphill climbs. Debt is more than numbers on a page. It is emotional weight. It whispers shame, regret, and sometimes guilt. It can make you feel stuck, as if no matter how hard you work, you are always behind. You pay and pay, but the balance remains. The backpack feels just as heavy even when you drop one stone. And at night, when you try to rest, the weight lies across your chest, making your breathing shallow. You are not alone in this. In fact, surveys show that more than half of Americans define financial freedom not as being rich, but as being debt-free. To them, freedom is not about yachts or mansions. It is about finally setting the backpack down. That tells us how heavy debt feels. It is not simply an obligation. It is a barrier to peace. And peace is what most people crave far more than wealth. Debt carries emotional stories too. Some debts come from emergencies, a broken leg, a lost job, a car that had to be fixed. Others come from survival, student loans to get an education, credit cards to cover rent when income was not enough. And some come from choices made without full understanding, like swiping for things that brought only temporary relief. Each story is different, but the common thread is that the weight does not just live in your wallet. It lives in your mind and body too. The shame of debt can be harsh. You might tell yourself, I should have known better. I should not have borrowed. I am behind everyone else. These thoughts make the backpack even heavier. But here is a gentle truth. You are not your debt. Debt is a circumstance, not a character flaw. It is a set of numbers that can change over time. You, however, are not defined by it. You are learning, growing, and moving step by step. Imagine loosening the straps of that backpack, not throwing it off all at once. That is rarely possible, but adjusting so the weight rests easier. Every payment you make, no matter how small, is like taking out a pebble at first. It may not feel like much, but over time, the pack grows lighter. Your steps become easier. One day, you look back and realize that what once felt impossible is now behind you. The freedom of being debt-free is not about pride or bragging rights. It is about relief. It is about no longer dreading the mailbox, the statement, the notification on your phone. It is about looking at your income and realizing it is yours to guide, not already spoken for. That lightness, that deep breath, is why so many people place debt freedom at the very top of their financial dreams. But until that day arrives, there are ways to soften the weight emotionally. One way is to shift the story you tell yourself. Instead of saying, I am drowning, you can say, I am carrying. and I am slowly setting pieces down. This language matters. It moves you from despair to progress. Another way is to measure wins in feelings as well as numbers. Each time you make a payment, notice how your chest feels a little lighter. Celebrate the relief as much as the math. Another powerful image is to picture yourself walking beside others in the same field. You are not the only one carrying a pack. All around you, people are lifting their own stones. Some heavier, some lighter, but all learning to manage the weight. Debt is common, though we rarely speak of it. Knowing you are not walking alone can ease the shame. We are many travelers, not isolated. Of course, debt has practical sides too. Interest grows, payments take time. But the goal of this story is not to give you formulas. It is to remind you that your worth is not tied to your balance. It is to soothe the part of you that feels crushed and to help you rest as you move forward. Because rest is part of healing too. You cannot drop the stones if you collapse from exhaustion. Think of the field again. The backpack is there, but so is the breeze, so is the sky, so is the soft grass beneath your feet. Debt may feel like everything, but it is not everything. Your life still holds beauty, laughter, love, and hope. These are not erased by money owed. They are part of the strength that helps you keep walking until the pack is empty. So tonight, if debt thoughts swirl, let this picture stay with you. Each payment is a pebble removed. Each small step is progress. The pack is not permanent. One day, you will lay it down, and when you do, your shoulders will remember what lightness feels like. You will remember what it is to walk freely in the field without weight. And yet, even as debt grows lighter, another truth waits quietly. Life always holds surprises. The sudden storm, the unexpected bill, the thing you did not plan for. If debt is about the stones on your back, then these surprises are about the ground beneath your feet. How do you prepare for the uneven path? How do you soften the fall when life trips you? That question is waiting for us in the next chapter. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. A car that suddenly will not start, a phone that slips from your hand and cracks, a hospital bill that arrives in the mail without warning. These moments are like sudden storms. The sky looked clear, and then, in an instant, the rain falls. When money is already tight, even a small storm can feel like a flood. Without preparation, each surprise knocks us down hard. The ground feels rough, the fall painful. We tell ourselves, why does this always happen to me? Why can't I catch a break? The truth is, surprises come for everyone. The question is not whether they will happen, but whether we have a soft place to land when they do. That is what an emergency fund is. Not a luxury, not a pile of money hidden away for fun, but a cushion. It is the pillow that softens the fall. It does not stop the stumble, but it keeps the landing from breaking you. Even a small cushion, a few $100s, can turn panic into inconvenience. The storm still comes, but you stay dry enough to keep walking. Many Americans do not have this cushion. Surveys show that most people would struggle to cover even a $500 emergency. That is why the fear of surprises weighs so heavily at night. The mind knows that life is unpredictable, but the heart feels unprotected. Without a safety net, every creak of the floor or every ache in the body becomes a reminder of how fragile things are. But here is the comfort. Building this cushion does not need to be grand. You do not need thousands all at once. You do not need perfection. You need small, steady steps. A few dollars set aside from each paycheck. A jar where coins and spare bills gather. A savings account that grows slowly, almost quietly, while you live your daily life. These small acts, repeated, create softness over time. Think of it like sewing a pillow. You add one stitch, then another. At first, it looks like nothing. But one day you realize the pillow is complete, stuffed enough to hold your weight. An emergency fund is sewn the same way. Little stitches of effort, little pieces of money, gathered patiently until one day the cushion is ready. There is a psychological gift here too. Every dollar in that fund does more than hold value. It whispers reassurance. It says, if the car breaks, I can help. If the doctor calls, I am here. That voice quiets the nervous system. It lets you rest more deeply. It lets you stop waiting for the next storm with dread and start living with a little more ease. An emergency fund is also a symbol of self-care. It is you telling your future self, I love you enough to prepare for what might come. It is like leaving a light on in the hallway for someone arriving late. It may not seem big, but it makes the return safer, kinder, warmer. Saving even a little is not just financial. It is emotional kindness stretched across time. Of course, life may still throw bigger storms than you planned for. The fund may not cover everything, but even then, it reduces the impact. Falling onto a thin pillow still hurts less than falling onto the ground. And each time you rebuild, you grow stronger, more resilient, more confident that you can meet what comes. Some people resist saving for emergencies because it feels like expecting the worst. They say, "Why plan for trouble? Won't that bring it?" But in truth, setting aside for the unexpected is not pessimism. It is realism. It is hope dressed as preparation. It is believing in your own ability to survive the storm, not waiting for the sky to stay clear forever. Think of a traveler carrying an umbrella. The umbrella does not bring rain. It simply makes the rain less frightening when it comes. An emergency fund is your umbrella. It may stay closed most of the time, but when you need it, it shields you. And knowing it is there lets you walk under the sky with more confidence. Even the smallest emergency fund can change the way you sleep. Knowing you have a cushion softens the edge of every worry. It turns shadows into shapes you can handle. It lets you imagine surprises not as disasters, but as challenges you are ready to meet. That readiness is a form of freedom, not because you avoid every fall, but because you know you will land more gently when it happens. So tonight, as you rest, imagine sewing your pillow. Each stitch, each coin, each act of saving builds the cushion. Imagine it waiting for you, soft and steady. Imagine falling and being caught. That is the piece of preparation. That is the gift you can give to yourself, one small piece at a time. And yet, even with a cushion beneath you, another truth lingers. Sometimes, even with a full wallet, people still feel empty. They have the numbers, they have the safety, but they lie awake wondering why the peace has not arrived. That quiet paradox is waiting for us in the next chapter. There is a strange moment many people never expect. They get the raise, they buy the nicer car. They finally step into the bigger apartment. The wallet feels fuller, the paycheck heavier. And yet, when the lights go out at night, the old unease returns. The numbers are different, but the feeling is the same. Somehow, the full wallet feels empty. This paradox is more common than you think. Studies show that even households earning six figures can live paycheck to paycheck. Expenses rise to match income. Wants become needs. The bigger house comes with bigger bills. The fancier car brings higher insurance. The glow of more fades, replaced by the same familiar stress. Lifestyle creep, quiet and sneaky, has slipped in. It feels like progress on the outside, but inside, the tension stays. You may look successful, but success does not always equal safety. The truth is that freedom is not found in the size of the paycheck. It is found in how you use what you already have. Without care, more money is just more water poured into a bucket full of holes. It runs through faster, leaving you just as thirsty. Imagine a bucket in the moonlight. Water pours in from a faucet above. The flow is strong, steady, abundant. But at the bottom, holes leak constantly. No matter how much comes in, the level never rises. That is what overspending does. The paycheck can double, but if the leaks are not patched, the bucket still feels empty. You keep filling, but never drinking. This is why some of the most financially free people are not the highest earners. They are those who learn to patch the holes. They live a little below their means. They choose carefully what to spend on. They build savings quietly, drop by drop. Their bucket may not overflow, but it holds steady, full enough to quench their thirst. And that steady fullness feels richer than endless leaks. The emptiness of a full wallet also comes from chasing the wrong goals. Maybe you thought the promotion would erase your stress, but it only brought longer hours. Maybe you thought the new car would give pride, but the payments now steal your calm. Maybe you believed the luxury purchase would fill the ache, but the ache remains. The wallet was full of receipts. This happens because money cannot solve every emotional need. If you seek belonging, confidence, or self-worth from dollars alone, you will always need more. Those feelings live in relationships, purpose, and self-acceptance. Money can support them, but it cannot create them. Without that deeper grounding, wealth feels like an illusion. Shiny, but hollow. Think of standing in a room filled with balloons, bright colors floating everywhere. At first, the sight fills you with joy. But as hours pass, you realize the balloons do not change your hunger or your thirst. They do not hug you or comfort you. They are beautiful, but they are not enough. That is what wealth without meaning can feel like, full of color. To move beyond this emptiness, you need to connect money to meaning. Ask softly, what do I want this money to do for me? Not in the sense of status, but in the sense of life. Do you want it to bring time with family to support your health? To give you freedom to create or to rest? When money serves these values, it fills not only the wallet, but also the spirit. For example, $1 spent on something aligned with your values feels richer than $10 spent on something empty. Buying a book that inspires you may bring more joy than buying a gadget that gathers dust. Sharing a meal with a friend may feed your soul more than a designer item. The numbers are smaller, but the impact is deeper. The emptiness of a full wallet also lessens when you remember gratitude. Gratitude shifts focus from what is missing to what is present. Instead of saying, I do not have enough, you can say, I have food, I have shelter, I have breath tonight. This does not mean ignoring challenges. It means balancing them with awareness of what is already secure. Gratitude fills the invisible part of the wallet, the part that cannot be measured but can always be felt. Another practice is slowing down. Many people fill their wallets and empty them quickly, spending in a rush, chasing feelings that vanish as soon as the purchase is made. By slowing down, by pausing before each expense, you can ask, does this truly fill me? Or does it leave me emptier than before? This pause patches leaks. It keeps the bucket steady. Over time, this approach transforms the way you feel about money. The wallet may not always be bursting, but it will feel full in a different way. With purpose, with calm, with alignment, you will stop chasing the illusion that more automatically means better. You will begin to see that enough with meaning feels far richer than more without it. So tonight, as you close your eyes, remember this paradox. A full wallet can still feel empty, but an aligned wallet, even if smaller, can feel whole. Freedom is not about how much flows in, but about how much truly stays. In your account, in your heart, in your peace. And yet, another question gently rises. If money itself does not bring fullness, what does? Perhaps the answer lies in connecting money to something deeper. Your values, your dreams, the life you long to build. That reflection will guide us into the next chapter. Picture a small wooden boat floating on calm water. The waves are soft, the moon reflects across the surface, and the boat drifts wherever the current pulls. That is what money feels like when it has no meaning. It moves, it flows, but it has no direction. You spend, you earn, you pay, but at the end of the month, you wonder where it all went. Without meaning, money drifts. Now imagine that same boat with a star to guide it. Suddenly, the drifting turns into a journey. Each paddle stroke, each ripple in the water has purpose. You are not just moving. You are moving toward something. This is what happens when money is aligned with meaning. The numbers become more than digits. They become tools that carry you toward a life that feels true to who you are. Financial freedom is not about having endless wealth. It is about having the freedom to make choices that match your values. For one person, that might mean working fewer hours so they can spend time with their children. For another, it might mean traveling, creating, or serving their community. For another still, it might mean peace and quiet, with no pressure to prove anything. When money supports these values, it fills more than accounts. It fills the soul. Think of $1 as a seed. Planted without thought, it may grow into weeds that clutter the garden. But planted with intention, it can grow into shade trees, nourishing food, or beautiful flowers. Each dollar has the potential to support something that matters deeply to you. The question is not just how much you earn, but what kind of garden you are growing with, what you spend. Many people discover that when they spend on what aligns with their values, the amount matters less. $10 used to share a meal with a friend may bring more joy than $100 spent on something forgotten in a drawer. A small donation to a cause you care about may feel richer than buying another outfit you do not need. The meaning behind the money multiplies its impact. This is why wealth without meaning can feel hollow. You may know people who seem to have it all but still live with deep dissatisfaction. Their money buys them things but not peace. It fills their homes but not their hearts. That is because money alone cannot create purpose. Purpose must come first, and money can then serve it. To find money with meaning, start by asking gentle questions. What do I value most? What makes me feel alive, connected, or at peace? Your answers may surprise you. For some, the value is freedom of time. For others, it is security for family. For others still, it is creativity, generosity, or community. When you name your values, you can begin to direct your money toward them, one choice at a time. Imagine a person who values adventure. Instead of upgrading their car, they choose to save for travel. Each dollar becomes a ticket, a memory, a story. Imagine someone who values family. Instead of chasing status, they invest in their children's education or create a home filled with stability. Imagine someone who values peace. Instead of stretching for luxury, they focus on living debt-free and simply. In each case, the money has meaning because it serves what the heart holds most dear. Living with money aligned to values also softens comparison. When you know your money is serving your unique path, you stop worrying about what others are doing. Their choices no longer measure your worth. You can be content knowing your dollars are flowing in directions that make sense for you. This alignment turns envy into quiet satisfaction. There is also healing in this. Many people have carried shame about how they use money. They look back at wasted purchases and feel regret. But once you begin directing your money toward your values, those regrets lose power. You are no longer drifting, you are sailing with purpose. And each intentional choice, no matter how small, begins to rewrite your money story. Think of your values as stars in the night sky. They are constant, steady, always there, even when clouds pass. Your money is the boat beneath you. When you let the stars guide you, you move steadily toward a destination that matters. Without them, you drift endlessly. With them, even small strokes of the paddle bring deep satisfaction. Money with meaning also changes how you see saving. Instead of being a chore, it becomes anticipation. Saving for something that aligns with your values feels exciting. It feels like planting seeds for a harvest you truly want. The act of setting aside money becomes less about restriction and more about creating space for what matters most. The same is true for cutting expenses. When you know your values, it becomes easier to let go of what does not align. You no longer see it as deprivation. You see it as clearing space. Like pulling weeds, you make room for the plants that nourish you. Less spending on things that do not matter creates more space for the things that do. So tonight, as you lie in the quiet, reflect softly. Where has your money gone without meaning? What small steps could you take to direct it differently? You do not need a full plan. You only need awareness. The awareness itself is the beginning of change. With each choice, you bring your money closer to your heart. And here is the deeper truth. When your money aligns with your values, freedom arrives earlier than you think. You do not have to wait until every debt is gone or until you reach a certain salary. You can feel freedom in the moment you choose money with meaning. That choice alone is liberation. But as you reflect on values and alignment, another challenge rises quietly. Even when we know what matters to us, we can still lose peace by comparing ourselves to others. Their journeys, their possessions, their numbers. Comparison can rob us of contentment, even in a life full of meaning. That struggle, and its gentle solution, is waiting for us in the next chapter. It begins quietly, almost without notice. You see a picture online of someone your age on vacation, smiling in a place you have never been. You scroll past only to see another buying a new home, or showing off a promotion, or dining at a restaurant where you have never eaten. Slowly, without meaning to, you begin to measure your own life against theirs. And in that measuring, your peace begins to shrink. Comparison is one of the most powerful thieves of contentment. It does not care how much you already have. It does not care how far you have come. It whispers, you are behind. You are not enough. You should have more by now. And those whispers can keep you awake at night, even if your own life is steady. The glow of someone else's highlight reel makes your own story feel small. But here's the truth. Comparison is built on illusions. What you see in others is never the whole story. The friend with the perfect vacation may be drowning in credit card debt. The couple with the new house may be stretched thin, worrying every month about their mortgage. The colleague with the high salary may be lying awake too, wondering why they still feel empty. Comparison uses snapshots, not full lives. Think of it like walking past houses at night. Through the window, you see the glow of a living room, a family laughing, a beautiful lamp, a perfect moment. What you do not see is what happens in the other rooms or behind the walls. Every house holds struggles, fears, and imperfections. Every life does too. When you compare, you are only looking through the window, never at the whole home. The problem with comparison is that it moves the finish line. You reach your goal only to see someone else ahead. You buy the car, but someone has a newer one. You get the raise, but someone earns more. The race never ends because there is always another runner. And yet, you never signed up for this race in the first place. You were only tricked into believing you had to run it. To trade comparison for contentment, you first need to remember your own lane. Your life is not theirs. Your path is your own. The money you earn, the choices you make, the pace you move, all of it belongs to you. When you measure your life against theirs, you lose sight of what actually matters to you. You spend energy chasing someone else's dream instead of living your own. Contentment comes when you redefine the measure. Instead of asking, "Do I have as much as they do?" you ask, "Do I have enough for my own peace?" Instead of saying, "Am I behind?" you ask, "Am I moving closer to what I value most?" These softer questions return the power to you. They remind you that comparison is not the judge of your worth. Your own values are. Think of running on a treadmill. If you keep turning your head to see how fast others are going, you stumble. But when you focus on your own rhythm, you move further and steadier. Life works the same way. Looking sideways at others only trips you. Looking forward in your own lane brings progress and peace. There are small practices that help. Gratitude is one. When you feel envy rising, pause and name 3 things you are grateful for in your own life. Gratitude shifts the focus from what is missing to what is present. It reminds you that your life, too, holds richness. Another practice is celebrating small wins, paying off a small debt, saving a little, saying no to an unnecessary purchase. These are victories worth noticing. They are proof that your path is moving, even if slower than others. Comparison loses power when you recognize the hidden costs. That person's lifestyle, you envy. It may carry stress you cannot see. That image of perfection, it may hide sacrifices you would not choose. By remembering this, you begin to soften the desire to trade your life for theirs. You see that every path has weight, and you already carry what is meant for you. Contentment is not about never wanting more. It is about learning to rest in what you already have. It is about drinking the tea in your own cup instead of staring at someone else's. It is about seeing your quilt. However simple as enough to keep you warm at night, contentment is not loud. It does not shout on social media. It whispers softly in your heart when you let go of the race. So tonight, if comparison thoughts creep in, remind yourself, you are not behind, you are not late. You are living your own story, and no one else has your exact path. What looks like abundance in someone else's life may not bring you peace, and what looks modest in yours may carry the richness of safety, love, and meaning. Comparison is endless. Contentment has an end. It is the point where you say, "This is enough for now. I can breathe here. I can rest." When you choose that, you step off the treadmill of envy and into the quiet field of your own peace. And yet, even as comparison softens, another thought arises. If contentment grows from small steps, then what does it look like to plant those steps with care? What happens when the little things you do each day begin to grow into something bigger than you imagined? That question will lead us into the next chapter. Comparison can leave us restless. It makes us think we are always behind, even when our own life holds enough. When we step away from that race, the question remains, what can we do with the life we already have? How do we take small steps forward without drowning in pressure? The answer is quieter than we expect. Freedom is not built in one leap. It grows slowly, like seeds planted in the soil. Think of your financial journey as a garden. At first, it may look empty. The soil may even seem dry, marked by mistakes, debts, or long seasons of struggle. But no soil is beyond hope. Each choice you make with money is like placing a seed in the ground. It may be a seed of saving, a seed of paying off a small bill, or a seed of writing down what you spent today. On their own, they seem too small to matter, but with patience, they take root. The truth is, freedom does not usually arrive as a sudden windfall. Most people who build lasting peace with money do so through small, steady actions. They save a little each week, even when it feels like nothing. They begin to pay themselves first, treating savings as a bill they must honor. They track their spending without judgment, simply noticing the patterns. These tiny acts, repeated over months and years, begin to change the story. Every small step is progress. Setting aside $10 for an emergency fund may not erase your fear, but it whispers, "I am safer than I was yesterday." Paying a bit more than the minimum on a loan may not end the debt this month, but it lightens tomorrow's burden. Each of these choices is like watering a seed. You may not see growth overnight, but the roots are spreading beneath the surface. This is why patience matters so much. In a culture that celebrates fast results, slow growth feels invisible, but invisible does not mean meaningless. The strongest trees take years to grow. The deepest roots are the ones you never see. Your financial roots are forming too, every time you repeat a small act of care. When storms come, it is these hidden roots that will hold you steady. Habits are the daily tools of this garden. Automating a transfer into savings is a habit. Checking in with your budget weekly is a habit. Pausing before buying something and asking, "Does this fit my values?" is a habit. One habit alone may not change your life, but together, they create a system that nurtures growth. Over time, you will look back and realize the soil is no longer bare. It is filled with green shoots of progress. Paying yourself first is one of the most powerful seeds to plant. Instead of waiting to see what is left after expenses, you set something aside the moment income arrives. It does not matter if it is large or small. What matters is the priority. By paying yourself first, you tell your future self you matter. I am caring for you now. That simple act builds confidence as well as savings. There is also freedom in forgiving yourself when you miss a step. Gardens are not perfect. Some plants do not grow. Some seasons are harsh. But the gardener keeps planting. In the same way, you may have weeks where you overspend or months where you cannot save. These are not failures. They are part of the rhythm. The important thing is to return to the soil again and again. Each return is proof of resilience. Think of someone starting their garden with only one habit, writing down expenses. At first, it feels small, but after weeks, they begin to see patterns. They notice where money slips away without meaning. That awareness allows them to make one change, then another. Over time, the single seed grows into a stronger sense of control. The freedom was not instant, but it was real, rooted in a daily act of noticing. Another person may begin with debt. They choose one small balance and decide to focus on it. Each month, they add a little extra payment. It feels slow, almost too slow, but eventually the balance disappears. The relief from that small victory inspires them to tackle the next. Each debt cleared is like pulling a weed, making more space for the seeds of savings to thrive. The beauty of planting seeds is that the process is both practical and emotional. Yes, your savings grow. Yes, your debt shrinks. But equally important, your confidence expands. You begin to believe in your ability to change. Each small act is a reminder that you are not powerless. You can shape your future one seed at a time. It is also important to celebrate growth as it happens. Too often, people wait until the whole garden is finished before feeling proud. But gardens are never finished. They are alive, always changing. So too is your financial life. Celebrate the sprout, not just the tree. Celebrate the week you saved, the bill you paid, the mindful choice you made. These celebrations feed your patience, helping you continue through the long seasons. Even if your seeds feel tiny, remember this: time is your ally. Small amounts saved early can grow into large sums later. The magic of compounding, where growth builds upon itself, is like sunlight that makes plants reach higher. What begins as a small deposit grows quietly year after year, until one day it becomes shade, fruit, or flowers you never imagined. Tonight, imagine yourself in that garden. You hold a handful of seeds, each one a choice you can make with your money. Some will become security, some will become freedom, some will become joy. You kneel down, place them in the soil, and cover them gently. You know they will not bloom tomorrow, but you trust they will grow. That trust is the beginning of peace. And as you picture this garden, notice how different it feels from comparison. You are no longer racing against others. You are tending your own soil at your own pace. Some days you plant more, some days less, but the garden remains yours. That is where freedom lives, not in perfection, but in persistence, patience, and purpose. So rest tonight, knowing this: every small choice you make is a seed. None of them are wasted. Even when you cannot see growth, the roots are forming. Even when you stumble, the soil remembers. Your future is being built beneath the surface, ready to rise when the time is right. And yet, another lesson waits. Growth does not happen overnight. It takes time, seasons, and patience. What does it mean to honor that slow rhythm? How do we learn to accept progress that comes gently, not quickly? That reflection will guide us into the next chapter. In the garden of your financial life, seeds rarely burst into bloom overnight. They rest, they root, they push slowly through the soil. For weeks, sometimes months, nothing seems to change on the surface. This can feel discouraging. You wonder if your efforts are wasted, but growth has its own rhythm. Progress often comes so gently that you only notice it when you look back. This is one of the hardest lessons in money and in life. We live in a world that celebrates speed. We are told that faster is better, that results must come quickly, that success should look instant. But real freedom is patient. It moves in small steps, not leaps. It builds gradually like water, smoothing a stone or a tree stretching toward the sun year after year. Think of paying off debt. At first, the numbers barely move. Each payment feels like tossing a pebble into the ocean. But over time, the balance begins to shrink. One stone removed, then another. Months later, you look back and realize you have carried away more than you thought. The mountain is smaller now, not because of one great effort, but because of steady persistence. The same is true with saving. The first few deposits feel like drops in a bucket, but each drop adds weight. Slowly, the water level rises. Later still, it is ready to quench your thirst in a drought. The drops added up, even when you felt impatient. Time was working for you all along. Many people feel behind in their financial journey. They look at others and think, I should be further by now. But there is no single timeline for freedom. Some people find stability in their 20s, others in their 40s, others later still. Progress honors your pace, not someone else's. Patience is not passive. It does not mean sitting back and doing nothing. Patience is active trust. It is showing up, planting seeds, watering them, and then waiting for nature to do the rest. In money, this means continuing your habits even when results feel small. It means believing that the roots are growing beneath the surface, even if your eyes cannot see them yet. Consider the story of someone who begins saving at 25, putting away a little each month. For years, it feels slow. The balance grows, but not dramatically. Then, after a decade, the growth begins to accelerate. Interest builds on interest, like branches growing from branches. What once felt like a sapling becomes a tree. The early years of quiet planting created the foundation for later abundance. This is the gift of compounding, the gentle pace of progress made visible. It shows that time itself can be a partner in your growth. Even small amounts, given enough years, can expand into something meaningful. You do not need to race, you only need to stay steady. But patience also requires compassion. There will be seasons when progress feels slow because life interrupts. A job loss, an illness, or an unexpected bill may pull you backward. But the truth is that gardens sometimes rest in winter. Growth pauses, but it does not disappear. The roots are still alive, waiting for spring. Your financial journey has winters too, and that is not the end of your story. Another part of the gentle pace is learning to celebrate milestones along the way. Too often, we focus only on the finish line, debt completely gone, savings fully built, freedom fully achieved. But each step deserves recognition. The first 100 saved, the first card paid off, the first month where you feel calm about bills, these are blossoms worth noticing. They encourage you to keep tending the soil. You do not need to do everything right every time. You only need to keep returning. A skipped deposit, a moment of overspending, a stumble along the way. These do not erase your progress. They are part of being human. What matters is that you return to the path again and again. Each return proves your resilience. Think of your journey as a long walk under the night sky. You cannot see the entire road ahead. Your lamp only shows a few steps at a time. But that is enough. Step by step, you move forward. You may feel impatient, wishing to see the destination. But the lamp was never meant to light the whole path. It was meant to guide you gently, steadily, one step after another. Each habit you repeat builds confidence. Each small win tells your nervous system, I can handle this. I am capable of change. That trust grows slowly, but once rooted, it becomes unshakable. Even when storms come, you will remember how much you have already weathered. That memory itself is strength. So tonight, if you feel stuck, remind yourself that growth often hides before it appears. The tree is still growing, even if you cannot hear the roots. The water is still rising, even if you cannot see the drops. Your freedom is forming, even if you cannot yet measure it. Trust the pace, trust the process, trust yourself. And yet, another truth waits to be explored. Sometimes progress is not about adding more, but about choosing less. Sometimes freedom is not about climbing higher, but about lightening your load. What if real wealth was not in having everything, but in needing less? That is the question we will open in the next chapter. Progress often asks for patience, but sometimes progress also asks for subtraction. We live in a culture that praises more income, more possessions, more status. Yet there is a quiet kind of freedom that hides not in the pursuit of more, but in the release of less. Imagine setting down a bag that has grown too heavy. The road does not change, but suddenly the walk feels easier. That is what the freedom of less can feel like. Think of a closet filled with clothes you never wear. Each shirt, each pair of shoes, each forgotten item takes up space, both physical and mental. Clearing even a few pieces can bring relief. You see more clearly what you actually use. You feel lighter. The same is true of your financial life. Every unnecessary bill, every subscription you forgot about, every purchase that adds clutter instead of comfort. Each one is a weight. Removing them gives space to breathe. The freedom of less is not about deprivation. It is not about living without joy. It is about choosing with care. When you buy only what serves your life, when you spend on what brings real value, you cut away the noise. You begin to see that less clutter often equals more calm. Less financial strain often equals more room for peace. For many, the greatest taste of freedom comes not from acquiring, but from paying off. The day a debt is gone feels like a window opening. The air flows in fresh, and you can finally breathe. Each payment removed is less weight on your back. Each subscription canceled is less demand on your paycheck. Each no spoken to an unnecessary expense is a yes spoken to your peace. Imagine your money like a balloon. Every expense is a string tied to the bottom. A few strings are fine: rent, food, utilities, the things that keep you steady. But when too many strings are tied, the balloon cannot rise. By cutting some of those strings, the balloon lifts higher with less effort. That rising is the freedom of less. It is not about shrinking your life, it is about lifting it. There is also an emotional freedom here. When you reduce the noise of constant spending, you begin to see what actually matters. You realize that many of the things you once bought for comfort did not give lasting peace. You learn that happiness often lives in experiences, in relationships, in moments of presence, not in objects gathering dust. With less clutter, those simple joys shine brighter. The freedom of less also protects you from the trap of comparison. When you choose simplicity, you step away from the endless race of who has more. You no longer measure your worth against the cars in your neighbor's driveway or the vacations on someone else's feed. Instead, you find contentment in knowing that what you have is enough for you. Less noise outside means more clarity inside. There is a story many people share. After downsizing, after decluttering, after cutting expenses, they feel richer, not poorer. Their savings grow. Their time feels freer. Their nights feel calmer. By needing less, they find they already have enough. This is the paradox. Subtraction can add more than addition ever did. But choosing less takes courage. It means saying no when the world tells you yes. It means walking past the shiny object, unsubscribing from the endless upgrade, declining the invitation to spend for appearances. At first, it feels strange. It may even feel uncomfortable. But over time, the space it creates begins to feel like home. You can begin small, cancel a subscription you do not use. Cook at home once more each week. Choose not to buy something you know will not add joy beyond a moment. Each act is like loosening a knot in the strings of your balloon. Slowly, you feel yourself rising. Slowly, you realize that needing less does not mean living less. It means living lighter. The freedom of less also ties back to progress. When you reduce expenses, you free money to plant more seeds. You can save more. You can pay down debt faster. You can create more cushion for surprises. Each dollar no longer tied to clutter becomes a seed for freedom. Less weight on one side equals more strength on the other. So tonight, reflect softly. Where could you choose less in your own life? Not in a way that feels harsh, but in a way that feels freeing. Maybe it is as simple as using what you already have before buying new. Maybe it is as simple as letting go of something that no longer serves you. Whatever it is, notice how even imagining less can bring a sense of calm. The truth is, wealth is not only measured in what you have, it is also measured in what you do not need. Each unneeded thing you release gives you space. Each expense you reduce gives you room to breathe. Each choice of less is a step toward more freedom. And yet, even as simplicity offers peace, another question stirs in the distance. If less can free us from pressure, then what gives us the strength to keep moving forward, even when the journey feels long? Perhaps the answer lies in hope, the quiet light that keeps us walking through the night. That light is waiting for us in the next chapter. When you begin to live with less, a new kind of space opens up. Your shoulders feel lighter, your mind quieter, your days a little calmer. Yet even in simplicity, the path forward can feel long. Paying off debt takes time. Building savings takes patience. Learning new habits takes persistence. In these moments, what carries you forward is not speed or certainty, but hope. The quiet glow on the horizon that reminds you to keep walking. Hope is not loud. It does not arrive with trumpets or fireworks. It is soft, steady, almost like a candle in the dark. And yet, that small flame can guide you through nights that feel endless. When you are unsure if your efforts matter, hope whispers, "Keep going, you are closer than you think." It is this whisper that keeps many from giving up before they see their seeds bloom. Research shows that more than half of Americans, even those still struggling, believe they are moving closer to their vision of financial freedom. This optimism matters. It does not erase challenges, but it gives energy to face them. Without hope, the same numbers feel crushing. With hope, the numbers become temporary obstacles, stepping stones instead of walls. Think of standing on a hill at dawn. The sky is still dark, but in the distance, a faint line of light appears. It is not yet morning, but you know the sun is coming. That line of light is hope. It does not change the darkness around you instantly, but it changes how you feel within it. You no longer fear that the night will last forever. You walk forward, trusting the glow will grow. Hope also shifts how you measure progress. Instead of saying, "I am not there yet," you can say, "I am closer than I was yesterday." Instead of seeing only the mountain ahead, you can look back and notice the path you have already climbed. Each payment made, each dollar saved, each habit practiced. These are rays of light breaking through the horizon. They remind you that you are already on the way. There is healing in celebrating these small wins. Paying off a single credit card, saving the first $100, making it through a week without overspending. Alone, they may seem minor. Together, they build a sense of momentum. Each win is proof that change is possible. Each win is another sunrise on your journey. Hope is not about pretending everything is easy. It is about believing everything can change. It acknowledges the weight of the present, but refuses to let the present define the future. It allows you to hold both reality and possibility at once. You can say, "Yes, money is hard right now. Yes, I am worried. And yes, I still believe tomorrow can be better." This balance is powerful. It keeps despair from taking root. Sometimes hope comes from stories. Hearing about others who started small, struggled deeply, but found peace gives courage to keep going. Their paths remind us that freedom is not reserved for the lucky few. It is built by ordinary people making steady choices. If they could walk through the night and find the horizon, so can you. Other times, hope comes from imagination. Picture yourself 1 year from now, with a little less debt, a little more savings, a little more calm. Picture yourself 5 years from now, with habits that feel natural and numbers that feel safe. These images may not be exact, but they give you direction. They create a future worth walking toward. Hope also thrives when you allow yourself rest. Burnout can smother progress. If you push too hard, too fast, you may feel tempted to quit altogether. But when you allow space for sleep, for reflection, for simple joys, you refill your energy. Rest reminds you that you are more than your numbers. It reminds you that life still holds beauty along the way, not just at the destination. One of the most powerful things about hope is how it multiplies when shared. Talking openly about money, struggles with someone you trust can ease the weight. Their encouragement can spark hope you could not find alone. Likewise, your progress, no matter how small, may inspire someone else. In this way, hope ripples outward, touching more lives than your own. Tonight, as you lie in the quiet, imagine the horizon of your own journey. What light do you see? Is it the moment you become debt-free? The day you feel safe with your savings? The evening you finally rest without money worry? Hold that light in your mind. Let it guide you. You may not be there yet, but the glow proves it is possible. Hope is the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. It connects the soil where your seeds are planted to the garden you will one day walk through. Without hope, the soil feels barren. With hope, the soil feels alive, even before the sprouts appear. Hope changes nothing outside of you, and yet it changes everything inside of you. And yet, as you keep walking toward that horizon, one more truth waits to be discovered. If freedom is not just a number, not just less, not just patience, then where does it truly live? The answer lies not only in the future, but also in the present moment, in the way you feel right here, right now, as you rest. That answer is waiting for us in the final chapter. Hope on the horizon reminds us that tomorrow can be brighter. It encourages us to keep walking through the night, trusting that the sun will rise. But hope also raises one last question. If freedom is not only in the future, where does it live right now? Where does it hide when we are tired, when the numbers still feel heavy, when peace feels far away? The answer is closer than it seems. Freedom is not just a finish line. It is not a single dollar amount in a bank account. It is not the moment when every debt is gone or when every bill is paid. Those things matter, but they are not the whole story. Freedom also lives in the way you feel in the present. In the deep breath you take when you realize you are safe tonight. In the gentle pride of knowing you made progress today, in the choice to rest even before the work is done. Think of freedom as both a number and a feeling. The numbers are bricks. Strong, reliable, measurable. The feelings are the warmth of the home built with those bricks. Without bricks, the home would crumble. Without warmth, the home would feel cold. True freedom needs both. It is built with structure, but lived through comfort. This means you can begin to feel free before everything is perfect. You do not need to wait until the last debt is gone, or until your savings reach a certain size. You can feel freedom each time you make a choice that aligns with your values. You can feel it each time you say no to comparison, each time you plant a seed, each time you honor your own definition of enough. These moments are freedom already blooming. Imagine sitting in a quiet room. The bills are still there, the plans still waiting, but for one moment, you close your eyes and breathe. In that breath, you realize you are still here. You are still trying. You are still moving forward. That awareness itself is a kind of freedom. It is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of peace within it. Freedom also lives in perspective. You may think you are far behind, but someone else would see your life and call it rich. You may focus on what is missing while forgetting the stability you already have. By shifting your view, by noticing the safety and abundance already present, you uncover freedom that was hidden in plain sight. Consider again the idea of enough. Freedom grows in the moment you decide what enough means for you and honor it. The world may push you to want more, but when you rest in your own definition, you step outside of that endless chase. You create a space where your money serves you instead of controlling you. That space is where freedom quietly lives. Freedom also lives in trust. Trust in yourself, in your ability to adapt, in your resilience. Think of how many challenges you have already faced, how many nights you have already survived. You are still here. You are still learning. Each obstacle you have overcome is proof that you are capable of more than you believe. That trust itself is freedom because it means you no longer fear every shadow. You know you can handle what comes. Another place freedom lives is in relationships. Money can create isolation when we carry shame, but it can also create connection when we share openly. Talking about money with someone safe, a friend, a partner, even yourself in a journal, can break the silence that weighs us down. In that openness, you discover you are not alone. You find comfort in shared humanity. That comfort is freedom too. The deepest truth is this: financial freedom is both a destination and a path. Yes, you can build it through habits, savings, and wise choices. Yes, it will grow stronger as numbers improve. But it also exists as a feeling you can access tonight, right now, by choosing gentleness, gratitude, and hope. The more you practice these feelings, the more the numbers begin to reflect them. The inside and the outside shape each other. So tonight, as you rest, remember this: freedom does not wait for someday. It is available in small ways today, in the breath you take, in the choice to rest, in the seed you plant, in the hope you carry. Each of these is freedom alive in the present moment. Each of these proves you are already on the path. And when the doubts return, when the shadows of not enough creep in, when comparison knocks, when progress feels slow, you can remind yourself gently, freedom is not gone. It is still here, living quietly in the choices I make, in the peace I create, in the trust I build. That is where freedom truly lives, not just in numbers, not just in feelings, but in the steady, patient blending of both. In the structure that holds you and the softness that heals you, in the life you are building and the peace you allow yourself to feel along the way. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine that home built of both bricks and warmth. The walls are sturdy, the light is soft. Inside you are safe. Inside, you are free. That is the freedom you are learning to create. That is the freedom you already carry. And tomorrow, when the sun rises, your story will continue. More choices, more seeds, more gentle steps toward the life you dream of. But for now, let yourself rest in the truth that freedom is not far away. It is here, alive in you, breathing with you, whispering softly, "You are enough." The story you have just traveled was not about quick fixes or perfect numbers. It was about you, about the shadows you carry, the seeds you plant, the quiet hopes that keep you moving forward. Over 15 chapters, we walked through illusions, fears, comparisons, and habits. Each part was a mirror and a window, showing you where you have been and where you might go. Tonight, as we bring this journey to a close, you can lay those lessons gently beside you, like a quilt stitched from many pieces. We began in the fog, with the mirage of more. You learned that chasing endless income or possessions does not always bring peace. The shimmer on the horizon often fades the closer you run. Then came the shadows of not enough, those restless worries that whisper at night, making even safe moments feel uncertain. We saw how naming those shadows and facing them with compassion begins to shrink their size. We drifted next into the habit of counting dollars instead of sheep. You discovered that numbers can never provide perfect certainty. They are tools, not verdicts. The real freedom comes when numbers and feelings work together. Then we redefined what it means to be rich, shifting the word away from mansions and yachts and toward safety, contentment, and rest. We sat with the peace of enough, learning that the goalpost of more will always move, but enough is a place you can choose. Enough is safety plus a little joy, not endless accumulation. After that, we explored the heavy backpack of debt and how each small payment is a stone removed. You learned that debt does not define you. It is a circumstance that can change, not a measure of your worth. We then built cushions for the surprises of life. Emergency funds, even small ones, are like pillows that soften a fall. They do not stop storms, but they catch you when you stumble. Then came the paradox of the full wallet that still feels empty. We saw how more money without meaning can leave us hollow, while fewer dollars used with intention can feel abundant. From there, we aligned money with meaning. Each dollar became a seed planted toward values, whether that meant family, creativity, or peace. We then faced the trap of comparison, recognizing how it steals joy by forcing us into races we never chose. Trading comparison for contentment meant finding peace in our own lane with our own rhythm. Next came the planting of seeds. Each habit, no matter how small, became a promise to the future. Roots grow quietly even when we cannot see them. Patience became our companion in the gentle pace of progress, teaching us that true change is steady, not sudden. Then we found freedom in less, realizing that subtracting clutter, debt, and unnecessary wants often adds more peace than any new purchase could. Hope arrived on the horizon, the soft glow that keeps us walking, even when the journey feels long. And finally, we discovered where freedom truly lives, not only in numbers, not only in feelings, but in the steady weaving of both, in the structure that supports you and the gentleness that heals you, in the balance of what you earn, what you need, and how you rest. These are not just ideas, they are companions you can carry beyond this story. They remind you that financial freedom is not a finish line in the distance. It is a series of choices, feelings, and moments that you can experience right now. Each time you breathe, Each time you trust yourself, each time you take a small step aligned with your values, you are already living in freedom. So tonight, let yourself rest in that truth. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to run faster or count harder. You have already begun. You are already enough. The seeds you planted during this story are alive, even if you cannot see them yet. They will grow in their own time. Your only task now is to rest and trust the gentle pace of your journey. As you drift towards sleep, imagine your life as a home built with both bricks and warmth. The bricks are your habits, your savings, your steady steps. The warmth is your gratitude, your contentment, your hope. Together, they create a space where you can feel safe. Inside that home, you can finally lay down the backpack of fear and breathe. Inside that home, you can say with quiet certainty, I am free enough tonight. And tomorrow, when you wake, the path will still be here. The garden will still be growing. The horizon will still be glowing. You can take another step, plant another seed, breathe another breath of trust. Your story with money is not finished, and it does not need to be. It is a living journey, unfolding one chapter at a time. So close your eyes now. Feel the calm of knowing you are learning. Feel the comfort of knowing you are not alone. And let yourself rest in the truth that freedom is not far away. It is here, in this breath, in this night, in you. Tonight, maybe you can stop proving and simply rest. Because you are still learning, you are still worthy, and tomorrow, your story with money will keep unfolding. And you, dear listener, are allowed to write it gently.